Hi, this is Nicholas, and today we will be overviewing our power consumption project by Group 3, which was our final project for computational thinking. Today we will be demonstrating the performance of this project, some problems that we encountered and how we solved those problems, and talking about how we were able to do it. So first off, we have our warnings. We have warnings, pandas, or imports, sorry. Warnings, pandas, Seaborn, NumPy, datetime, stats models, matplotlib, and sklearn. Now all of these imports were used for different aspects of our project, the main ones being stats models, matplotlib, and sklearn. Next up we had warnings.filter warnings.ignore right here so that we could ignore any possible warnings that showed up that didn't affect anything. We just wanted to make the input clean. And right here we had our first command, which was read.csv for power consumption, in which we had found that the variables that affect the power consumption the most to the least were temperature, humidity, and wind speed, which helped us configure the rest of the project, as you can see right here. And next up, we had our training, where we trained the regression model in order to compute everything correctly. And right here, we had our describe function, where we described our model, and we had our pair plot model as well, which represented the visualization of the database, in which we were able to further confirm the temperature, humidity, and wind speed that we had up here. You can see down here. That's our describe, and this is our pair plot. So next up, we have our actual code, modeling, and linear regressions, in which we labeled them as certain variables in order to predict a certain example right here, in which it did end up working. Right here are the weather conditions that we were tasked to solve, which we had solved them right here, in which they did succeed, which they are down here, along with the uncertainties as well. And along with that, we tested two linear regression models. We tested the NumPy and the sklearn. We ended up using the sklearn because it was easier to use, in which it allowed us to use multiple independent variables at once. In which down here, as you can see, we had those graphed. So this one had a formula, and this one didn't. Which is just kind of like, right, this was our output right here. This was our output right here. And again, we decided to use sklearn because it was simpler to use, in which it just gave us a straightforward value from the start and from the beginning. So yes, we did end up using sklearn over a NumPy, as it seemed easier to use for us and manipulate and be able to manipulate multiple independent variables at one time. So just to go over the output of all this, we have our description, our pair plots, which represented our visualization of our database. Then we had our tasked weather conditions to compute with our uncertainties, and we had our graphs, in which we used the sklearn linear regression. Now on to our data model interface. We first printed out the title. We had three temperature variables, temperature, humidity, and wind speed, and then our zone input, in which we then asked which zone we wanted to use, and then we printed this out, and we used the code up here in order to compute whatever you got inputted. So we just want to test that right here. Okay, so say 6, 75, and 0.08. We can just say zone 2, and there we go. We got the output for that right here, in which this does use the code from above in order to compute that. And now we got the data model update interface right here. So we just want to test that out real quick. So let's say again, 8, right here. Humidity, say 72. Wind speed, we can put 0.05. And we can put 30 for this, 20 for this, 15 for this. In which it just wrote all of that into the CSV file, in which we have our date time, which wrote the date time in it, into the string, which kind of compresses all of it into one string. Then we have our power consumption.csv, which opens that, data implementation. Then we have our variables that you input, so temperature, humidity, wind speed, and all the zones. So here we go. So as you can see, it inputted the variables that we inputted. So we got 30,000, we got 20,000, and we got 15,000 right here, like we inputted. As we input it again, we get 872 and 0.05. So here we go. So there we go. So for our project, which included Grace, me, and Andrews, I was in charge of the database update interface, in which I also, finalized and created the video. Grace was in charge of the multiple data models, and Andrews was in charge of the interface, in which we all contributed, to the research required for this project, in which we all helped each other out and, successfully completed all of our tasks, in which update interface, data models, and user interface, in which we had discussed it on 12/2/22, and throughout this timeline right here, we had completed all of our tasks. So there we go. That is our Group 3 linear regression model project.